And then you have our preschool infographic where we talk about high quality preschool and what's included in that. The preschool path website, which is awesome and full of great resources for both teachers and parents. Our Utah Preschool listserv that allows you to get the monthly newsletter from us and any other important information. And then we've just started a Utah Preschool Facebook page that we'll talk about at the end of the day as well. Just some reminders about Zoom etiquette. Hopefully a lot of you are familiar with Zoom now more than you were before the pandemic. We ask that you keep your camera on if you're talking. Or in the breakout rooms, it is helpful to see those facial expressions, and then mute if you're not talking. I will offer a reminder to not take your device into the bathroom with you. We don't want to be hearing any flushes or see anything. I guess there in one of the emails from our one of the people at our office that's been monitoring the legislature and other board meetings. I guess there's been some crazy incidences that have happened across the country. So let's not let that happen to you. Just leave it for a second and come back. Feel free to leave comments in the chat for the presenters, any questions that you have. Please don't use the chat to like catch up with friends during the breakouts because everyone can see them. So just limit it to things that apply to the presentation. And then just try to eliminate distractions today so that you can really get the most out of this professional development opportunity. Just a reminder about Midas. So if you haven't registered in Midas yet, we would really like you to do that so that we can get credit as well as keep track of attendance. So if you're having problems on Midas, if you click this site, you can there's an account help section. You can send an email and then we can get that worked out in the coming days. We also will be having a sign-in in each session that you will need to sign into in order to get credit for that session in Midas. And those will be entered in through the chat box. So make sure that you're monitoring the chat box throughout the presentation. And then we'll also be taking those sign-ins to create the drawing, how we'll identify who wins prizes at the end with the giveaways. So the more sessions you attend, the more likely you are to win the prizes. So make sure that you can participate for as much as you can today. And so if you have been getting our flyers, you've seen that the First Lady Abigail Cox is going to be our keynote speaker at the Salt Lake session. So if you guys would like to join us, that would be great. However, we know that many of you can't, and she wanted to be able to provide a message to you guys for this session. So we'll go ahead and play that now.
Hi, I'm First Lady Abby Cox, and I am so happy the Utah State Board of Education has given us this opportunity to gather, learn from one another, hone our skills, and get the support we need in the preschool community. I am keenly aware of the integral role you educators and preschool professionals play in teaching, supporting, and forming the rising generation of leaders and doers in our state. I entered the early childhood education realm as a student at Utah State University because I wanted to change lives. As it turns out, my students changed mine. The joy and optimism I gained by being with my little learners every day was a powerful reminder of what really matters. Early childhood education is included in the Governor's One Utah Roadmap because we know that giving children an early start in learning academic and emotional intelligence skills will positively impact the rest of their lives and will set them on a path for success. We recognize the importance of early childhood education and are committed to the improvements which are essential for your well-being and the well-being of the children you serve. I hope you remember to take care of yourselves. I know you will only be able to support Utah's children as long as you are well yourself. I am profoundly grateful for the work you do. The Governor and I see you. We appreciate all you do for the children of our state.
So I just think it's awesome that she was able to send us a message. And I don't know if the rest of you were aware that she is a preschool professional herself. She went to Utah State, graduated in special ed early childhood. So she gets it. So we're really excited to have her as our keynote in Salt Lake. And if you can come to that session as well, it'd be great to have you there. And with that, I will turn it over to Brittany Cummins. So Brittany has served as a member of the Utah State Board of Education, and she is now the educational advisor for Governor Cox. And she also helps oversee the work of the Early Childhood Commission, which is what we've asked her to come and speak about today. So for those of you that don't know, the Early Childhood Commission was established in 2019, and it's really working on organizing all of the work in early childhood being done across the state. So I will turn it over to Brittany and she can go ahead and share.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Give me just 1 second and I will share my screen. Are you able to see a presentation? Okay, perfect. Good morning. It is so good to be here, and I have to apologize. I have a little bit of a cold that I am fighting off, and so my voice is a little scratchy, and I find that the more I talk, the less I can breathe. So I apologize for any of that might take place today. Well, good morning. I am really excited to be here, and I hope that Childhood Commission, I think, has been a really great opportunity for me, who prior to this assignment was focused mostly on K-12 education. And so a great opportunity to engage in the Early Childhood Commission and really get an understanding of all the amazing work that's going on in our state in that birth to 5 realm. And preschool is an extremely important part of that. So if you do start to fall asleep, just put some Z's in the chat to let me know that it's getting boring, and we'll try and kick it up just a little bit. But I wanted to start, let me see, by giving you the last slide, the thank you, right? So I wanted you to know, as preschool and early childhood educators, how much I personally appreciate your work. Excuse me. I have often and always been just a little bit jealous of educators in the preschool realm. You have the ability to connect with our youngest students in such an authentic way, something that I've always wanted to be able to do, but I'm hoping that some of that magic will rub off onto me today. I don't know if that's possible virtually, but we'll try it out and see what happens. But you, as early childhood educators, have an understanding of a child's development. You understand where they are, what they're experiencing inside physically and physiologically, and how that comes out in their day-to-day actions. But you're able to plan and engage with them using that expertise and creating lesson plans in a way that's very professional, but it comes across as I'm having the best time of my life today, right? And that's what those students feel in their classroom. And so I wanted to share just a personal experience that I had yesterday. One of our littles in our family joined our family about 1.5 years ago. He was 2.5 at the time and had about 2 words in his vocabulary that we could understand. And it was hard. It was hard for him to communicate. He struggled and he was often frustrated because we didn't understand him, right? It was our fault. Why don't you people understand me? Why can't you comprehend what I'm trying to say? And oftentimes it turned into, temper tantrums and frustrated experiences because he couldn't communicate with us. We were able to get him connected with some early intervention services and some speech therapy. But, as you all know, COVID made that difficult. He was only able to access those therapy sessions in online situations, and it was very difficult for him to engage with the therapist in those experiences. But then he turned 3, and hallelujah, he was able to qualify for an early preschool program through our school district. And what a delightful experience that has been. He is in his 2nd year of the preschool program in our district. And just yesterday, I had the opportunity to sit in his IEP meeting with his team, with his teacher, his paraprofessional, a district representative, and the individual providing his specialized speech services. It was so heartwarming to listen to the para who'd been with him since he began this program talk about the progress that he's made, and to have a quick celebration together about his progress. He is a chatterbox all the time, talking. He has hundreds of words. He still has a lot of work to do as he learns to pronounce things more clearly and to pull those words together into sentences and phrases. But he is making significant progress and has made significant progress. And what a great opportunity to be there in that classroom with those educators to celebrate his progress and the efforts that have been made there. And the interesting part about it is that it took place in an old school building, right? In our area, we all know what it's like to teach in an older building where the heater is maybe a little bit less than reliable, and the computer was clunky enough that they had a hard time printing off the IEP documents at the end. But it worked. The program is working. The teachers are engaging. They are connecting with my child, who is engaging and happy and really enjoying that work. Thank you. So I want you to know that your work matters to me. It matters to my little. It matters to all of us as a state. Thank you for your knowledge, your expertise, and your patience, and your amazing magic. So we all know that preschool matters. I know it. You've always known it, right? But preschool is still not accessible entirely to all of Utah students. And as was mentioned in First Lady Cox's words that she shared, part of the governor's One Utah Roadmap includes early learning, recognizing that parents and families need supports to give their child a great start. So one of those pieces was to expand optional extended day kindergarten. That work is still in progress. I hope many of you are aware of the current legislative budget request and other requests that would allow all-day kindergarten to be accessible to all families across the state. Also, another point was to expand access for optional high-quality early learning and empower families through a coordinated birth to 5 5-year strategic plan. Now, those two get to the work of the governor's Early Childhood Commission. The Childhood Commission was created in 2019, and it has a couple of directives, statutory objectives. One is to support Utah parents and families by providing comprehensive and accurate information regarding the availability of services for children ages 6 and younger. So we all know there's a lot of work happening in our state. There's a lot of things going on, but do parents know about it? Do they know how to access it? Do they know what's available to them, how, where, and how to pay for it, or if it requires payment? Number 2, facilitate improved coordination between state agencies and community partners that provide early childhood services. So the work of this commission is to pull these agencies together, and you'll see that in the makeup of the commission, right? The commission, and we'll talk just a little bit about that in a moment. Number 3, share and analyze information regarding early childhood issues in the state. So how do we get the information that we have? How can we improve? And let's use the information that we have available in different agencies to do so. Number 4, develop and coordinate a comprehensive delivery system of services in the areas of family support and safety, health and development, early learning, and economic development. So they recognize different areas of support that are available to students in this age group, this birth to 5 age group. Identify opportunities for and barriers to the alignment of standards, rules, policies, and procedures across the programs and agencies that support children in early childhood. And if there's one thing that we do well as agencies or government agencies is create policies and procedures, I think the task ahead is to make sure that they align and that they're smooth and that we can find ways to make it easy for parents and families to access those things. So the commission membership is made up of agency heads that have touch points with early childhood circumstances. So the lieutenant governor chairs the commission, and then the members of that commission are the executive director of the Department of Workforce Services, Department of Health, Department of Human Services, and the superintendent of public instruction. And so, and many of you may be aware that the Department of Health and the Department of Human Services are going through a consolidation process right now as they bring their agencies together. And we'll speak a little bit more about how the commission is using that consolidation work to help further the work of the commission as well. So the commission has established these 4 basic documents in order to help to guide the work that they are doing. And these are links. So if you, the slides are available within the folder that was provided. And so if you want to look at any of these documents, you can get the link to them from this page. So the B5 strategic plan was a plan established after a needs assessment of the system was performed. And so the B5 strategic plan, and this is the bulk of what I'm going to talk about today.
Doesn't have the Zoom, Ms. Jen. Then it doesn't want to install.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, sorry. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more specifically about the B5 strategic plan because that really is the driving strategy document for the commission. The early childhood mental health needs assessment was also performed and is an important document. And you'll find that there's also a lot of work around trying to understand the needs, the mental health needs of our earliest children in our state. How do we provide the services to them? Where and how do we assess their needs? And there's a lot of work happening as well with some work groups that are looking at best ways to assess and how to make sure that that data is available for families and service providers within our state. The Utah's early learning guidelines, birth to age 3, and the Utah core standards, ages 3 to 5, are documents that have been created that help providers, both in the preschool and in the care world, to access standards. What does early care and education look like? What should it look like? What are those high standards that we need to set for our students and families as they prepare their children for kindergarten? And so these are the 4 documents that the commission uses to inform the work as they try to align, strategize, and create collaboration across the different agencies. Okay, so the B5 strategic plan. Here is a quote from the introduction of this plan. It says, "Too often early childhood systems operate in silos, missing key opportunities to maximize the overall health, well-being, and early learning outcomes for children. Ultimately, a well-functioning early childhood system is coordinated and aligned across multiple agencies and systems, provides families with high-quality programs and services to support the healthy development of their children." Right? What a great opportunity. But in this statement, we also recognize that oftentimes we create the silos, we create the roadblocks, we create the problems. And so how do we push past that? So if it's okay, Jessica, I'm not sure if I did this, if we interact just a little bit, we can do so either through the chat, or if you would like to unmute yourself and share a little bit about your experiences. But what silos have you observed from your perspective and your experiences?
Although the preschools are in the K-5 schools themselves, the physical schools, often they're treated as something totally separate from the school and not recognized as part of the school.
Thank you. So even within a district system, preschool feels like it's siloed from the rest of the K-12. Is that what I heard? Great.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
I'll share real quick. I was so surprised that when I came to the state, like how many other services were available for kids in the birth through 5. I remember having kids that struggle with behavior at home or families that were having other issues, and I didn't know of the resources that I could have given to them. I felt like my job kind of and my resources I could offer them stopped at my classroom door. And so that's one of the main reasons I wanted Brittany to come today, was to bring awareness to that, like there is a lot more happening in this early childhood space and we can help our families. But there's just, not that communication between all of the things that are happening in that space.
Thank you, Jessica. And it's interesting that sometimes our position or the current circumstance we have helps to open doors to opportunities, which is unfortunate because, we don't know what we don't know when we need those things, right? So for example, the story I shared about our little who's in our home right now, the only reason why we knew that we had access to services for his speech is because of the foster care system and how that was shared with us. And so, how many families are struggling with speech development in their homes, but don't know that they have services available to them through either state agencies or even district-led preschool programs. So thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts? Go ahead, Jessica.
I was just gonna say there's a lot in the chat about that separation happening within the schools, that our preschool staff are not recognized as as professionals, and that some district employees even call them daycare versus preschool. So just thinking that, not understanding that there's high quality education happening.
Right. And I think that's a really interesting point, and maybe to be slightly anecdotal as a parent and one more time, but similarly, years ago when our older children were looking for preschool opportunities, and there wasn't a lot of district opportunity for preschool, you'd look for, hey, I want preschool, and it was always a daycare center, right? And I think we've have a hard time understanding that there are preschool opportunities both in daycare and in standalone preschool services, and there's high quality in all kinds of places. And how do we communicate the learning that takes place, the important learning that takes place, and the care that takes place in these different services, and that it's not a just daycare kind of a conversation for any of these circumstances that we're able to meet our children's learning needs. So thank you. I think that's a really important silo to break down is the concept of daycare and early learning. Okay. Any other thoughts that people want to share? Okay, then we will move to the next slide. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this B5 strategic plan and the areas for system improvement that it talks a little bit about. So it's going to have 3 areas: ensuring a family and child-centric early childhood care and education system, enabling governance structures to coordinate, align, and promote effective transitions, and building a system infrastructure. So a lot of these 3 pieces are more system-wide, but if you don't mind taking just a minute thinking about where you see your work in some of these systems pieces. Any thoughts there? And we'll get into more detail about some strategies and opportunities within these three areas of systems. But just for a minute, if you can see, where do you think you fit in as an educator or an administrator? Where do you fit in to some of these areas?
I feel like preschool, sometimes we're just the first time they're exposed to education and resources. So I feel like, and we work with parents a lot more, I think, than some education when they get older. So I just think we're kind of key in connecting these points to parents for the first time.
Great, fantastic. So you're part of the system infrastructure and part of the connecting pieces and transition pieces that go on. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move to the next. Okay, so ensuring a family and child-centric early childhood care and education system. So from the strategic document, it identified some of the roadblocks, some of the things that exist within the system that make this difficult, and then what are the opportunities or the specific strategies that we might be able to engage in order to overcome those roadblocks. So the assumption is that we want a system that is family-centric and student-centric and is available to our students across the state. Then some of the roadblocks that they acknowledged were knowledge of parents, and we spoke to that just a little bit earlier. What do parents know developmental milestones for their children? Do they understand where their children could and should be at any given time? And once those milestones are identified, do they understand what services and interventions might be available to their family if their child may be not reaching those milestones at an average or normal time? Do they have transportation? I think trying to see some of the stuff go by in the chat, I think there's rural implications as we think about transportation access. Do these services exist close to where they live? Are there socioeconomic considerations? Oftentimes there's an assumption that preschool is only available if I am able to pay tuition, and that those are the only services available to children pre-kindergarten. Also, there's family schedules. Are the services available when parents are available, when children are available, and are we able to create those access points in the time, the place, and when children need them? So some of the opportunities that were identified in this plan are building parents' capacity as their child's first and best caregiver. Like, what do parents need to understand their role as the caregiver, the teacher, that first access point for this child and the world around them? Do we enable and empower families to access available services? We can ensure messaging to families is well-defined, aligned, and consistently reinforced, right? We all know what it's like to engage in a system that's confusing and difficult to understand how and where to access specific things. We need to develop a coordinated approach to streamline service access and then reduce stigmatization experienced by families accessing services. Do they understand that these services are for them as they build their capacity, not because of some deficit that someone has defined for them? So this is our first area, ensuring family and child-centric early childhood care and education system. What have you observed from your perspective about roadblocks and maybe some ideas of opportunities, strategies that could be developed in order to better create a family and child-centric early childhood system? I'm really good at waiting quietly.
Brittany, can
Okay.
you restate the question?
Yeah, so the report identified some roadblocks and some opportunities, right? So here's some roadblocks to accomplishing a family and child-centric system. Here's some things that we can do, some strategies we can move forward with. From your perspective, have you identified any other roadblocks that you think make it difficult for this child and family-centric system? Or do you think there's some strategies that could be added to this list? Any ideas from your perspective?
I don't know if this applies to everybody, but I know out in the more rural areas, I almost think if we had some of the providers come to the classrooms and talk to these parents and let them know what is, what is out there for them, kind of bring it to them, because a lot of our families will not go that extra mile because they can't. Some of them just can't afford to, or like some of the other roadblocks, they just can't. So that is just something I often have thought, if we could even have them come in and just talk to each classroom or area or whatever, I think that would be helpful.
From our perspective, I think not only do like parents not have the knowledge, but like I said, educators don't have the knowledge. And right now, they're so limited on hours that there's like no time for them to even like do some research and find it. So giving staff more hours to be able to work and support their families in other ways outside of the classroom would be great.
Fantastic.
Another thing might be also, I know for some families in the area I live in, who it's available to those who are lower income and those who can afford it, but then the in between kind of sometimes get stuck and aren't going to do preschool because they can't afford it, but they don't qualify for any help. I know a lot of people in my area that find other means of preschool because of that. So that could be a roadblock too.
Right. I think that's a fantastic point. We often, when resources are limited, we try and target things, but there's always those in between families that continue to struggle and to find resources for their families. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Great. Okay, we are going to move to the next piece, which is a little bit more of a overarching kind of a concept, which is governance. And as fascinating as concepts of governance are to me, I think it gets a little bit boring to others, but here's why I think governance is so important. Governance creates and has the ability to either create the roadblocks or to pull the roadblocks out, or to at least limit the number of roadblocks, right? Governance done well creates the efficiencies that we've been talking about. Governance done not well can be very, cumbersome and cause a lot of the problems that we've talked about here. And so the report recognizes that governance has both of these pieces. When we have a system with multiple agencies, multiple funding streams, so we recognize that this is not just a state conversation. Many of the services that are provided to the young people of our state come through federal funds as well, that are funneled through state agencies. And so we have the multiple agency, multiple funding streams, and the accountability that is attached to each of those funding streams. And then our current lack of a statewide framework. So some of the opportunities that this report recognize as far as what we can do to better create a governance structure that coordinates, aligns, and promotes effective transitions is we can build a statewide framework. We can elevate the current work of current organizations such as Early Childhood Utah, and I would imagine there's some of you participate in that work. It's an amazing opportunity to say what is happening in our state from a vast membership and experience, and to really create some consolidation and alignment around that. ensure that the right people are at the table. Is anyone missing from these conversations as we think about a program that is not a single server program, right? We have multiple agencies, but we also have private providers who are engaged in both the early care and the early learning realm. We need to develop a coordinated approach to streamline service access. So making sure that people know what services are available and create formalized governance structures. So once again, what have you observed from your perspective about some of the roadblocks that are kind of implied or implicit in our governance structures? And what opportunities are some things that we could do, some strategies that might help us move past these roadblocks?
Brittany, I think one of the big challenges that I see is just helping people across recognize and know what services are available across systems. Like Jessica was saying when she came into the state, just realizing that there were so many things out there that she didn't know. I think one of the big things is increasing the communication and the awareness of what is available to people in the first place.
Okay, I think that's a really good point. So can I ask a question then of the group? And if there's any thoughts, I'd really appreciate to hear it. Who do you think that communication should come from? And what do you think is the best delivery method? How would you, as an educator, like to receive or to hear about services available?
I don't know about how educators should receive them, either directly from the state or from leadership at the local level. But I think that it's very critical for parents to hear about services from the people that they know and trust. And so that would be as close as possible to the parent and child. So the classroom teacher or someone in the program that they're already familiar with, because often information that comes from up above the state or the federal government is looked at with some concern or even disdain at points. So the closer to home from people they trust is probably the best.
Thank you. I think that, oh, go ahead.
No, I feel like it is important in our communities to know what resources are available. I feel like it is our job to let parents know and make them aware. So my first few years, I felt like I needed to understand we have the Utah or the Family Support Center. We've got Utah Behavioral Services, all the different resources that families need and kind of know where to send them when they need that help.
Thank you. Okay, one person in the chat mentioned the importance of having the information available so that when a circumstances arises, you have the resource to match the right service or resource to the family that you may be working with. And I think that's a really good point as well. Because sometimes we hear a lot of things, we go to trainings, we have experiences, and we hear all kinds of information, but we don't know when and how we might need that specific thing. And so it's good to be able to have some reference work back to an understanding of the structure or services available. Thank you. Okay.
I think also reaching out to pediatricians, because with my children, I've gone in needing feeding therapy and didn't know it was available through the state. And he refers me to get a $500 assessment done, where I can go through the state and get a free assessment to find out what I really need if I need further information. And so reaching out to the pediatricians who give a lot of information to the parents.
That is a fantastic point to bring up. And I think part of the collaboration that's necessary, and it came up in the work around early childhood mental health. Like who and where should some of these screeners be provided? And the role of the pediatrician was integral in kind of in that concept and asking those questions. And how do we make sure that pediatricians and educators and childcare providers and families all are aware of number one, how do we get access to an assessment if there's a concern? And then also, how do we connect those to services? So thank you. Pediatricians are an important part of that link. Hey, the next one is build a system infrastructure. So once again, some of the roadblocks we experience are multiple agencies, multiple funding streams, which are attached to different accountability measures, and then multiple uncoordinated systems. And so this particular piece is about how do we have a lot of information. How do we collaborate and pull that information together in a way that makes sense? And so some of the opportunities that this is looking at is improving data collection and reporting across agencies, integrating data systems to inform shared learning, clearly define and operationalize state definitions of high quality early childhood programs that promote kindergarten readiness, foster professional support and promote a highly skilled early childhood workforce, and increase alignment within and across early childhood care and education sectors. So this piece gets to professionalism as well as the information that's available within the system for the professionals to use and to move the system forward. So one last time, I promise, what have you observed from your perspective? What are roadblocks that you see with being able to gather, use data, or to receive or to promote professional learning, as well as what do you think are some opportunities, some strategies that could be developed in order to move along a more coordinated system infrastructure? Do you see it as an issue? Do you have the data available to you that you feel like you need as an educator, as a program organizer?
I think there's just so much data available that it's hard to funnel out exactly what we need to know and exactly what we don't need to know.
Thank you. I think that is a shared concern across any type of agency or data informed practice that we're trying to engage in. Like, how do we know what information is necessary and how do we access it? So I think that's a really good point. All right. Well, I just wanted to wrap up and share with you, the collaborative work that is moving forward with the commission. The commission was created, it's headed by agency heads, but the purpose and the role of it is to bring this work together so that we can break down these silos, so that we can address the needs of our students and create a more seamless program where you can engage with it and understand how to help your students in a more seamless way, and that your work can be highlighted in a way that others across the state can see the amazing work of early childhood educators and the importance of that work. So I guess I'll end with the last slide again. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise. And once again, thank you for your magic. My kids have felt it. My kids have needed it, and I appreciate it very much, both as a parent, as an educator who works with much older children, which is where my magic lies, which is okay with me, and as a member of this large bureaucracy, as we try to find ways to pull this together and to really focus back once again on our students, our families, and the magic that you create as the educators. So I'm happy to answer any other questions or do anything else you need me to do, Jessica, but thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Any questions for Brittany? So again, I just wanted to bring this to your awareness. I think as a teacher, we often don't get the opportunity to see outside of our classroom. And especially like the last couple of years, you guys have been so focused on just getting by day to day, as you should be. But as we talk with teachers, they say, you know, our work is important and people don't value it. And how are we going to make these things move? And you kind of feel helpless. And so I wanted to bring this to your awareness of like work is happening in the state. In the important links tab, I don't have it there yet, but I'm going to add it. There is a public notice website for the state of Utah. And I'm going to put some organizations that you can follow if you want. So I'll put the Governor's Commission as one. Early Childhood Utah is an advisory council is another that kind of works in conjunction with the commission. Early Childhood Utah has kind of all the people, all the boots on the ground in the early childhood field. And then the commission gets to make the big decisions as the leaders. But I think it's really important that as teachers, you know where to go to advocate and have your voice heard. Because I didn't know how to do that as a classroom teacher. And I think it adds value. Like it's a slower moving train than I would like, but it is moving and we're making progress in the state. And that brings a lot of hope to me. So I will put that in the important links. And if you guys want to subscribe to those so that you can stay updated on the bigger picture and what's happening in the state, as well as knowing how you can advocate, I will put that there. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning about the steps that the state is taking. With that, we will close out. So we will start our first session. We're a little early, so which I don't think you guys will object to. You have 20 minutes to work on some things at your desk or wherever you are. And then we hope that you'll join us for the first breakout at 10:10. And if you have any questions, we'll stay in this room for a little bit so you can chime in with any questions, and then we'll see you in our breakout rooms.
Jessica, how do we get credit for being in this session?
That is a very good question. Stay here, folks. We forgot to send that in. So watch the chat real quick. Jared will copy and paste that over, and then you guys can sign in. Lots of thank yous in the chat, Brittany.
So with this, I just put the link to, it's a Qualtrics form. All you need to do is put in the email address that you use to register for the course in Midas. That way we can connect your attendance here with your registration to make sure that you get credit for attending.
So once you fill that out, you can head out.
And we will have separate little forms for, similar to this for each session that you go to. Be sure before you leave the session, if one of us moderators forgets to put the link in the chat during the session, make sure to remind us so that we can be sure to give you the credit for attending.